you certain you want me to accompany you?" Aimee asked as she settled onto the seat next to Thea. While her English was practically faultless, when she was distressed or fatigued, Aimee struggled for words, and whenever she spoke, her accent belied the fact that she was a native Texan, born right here in Ladreville. "Yes, of course I am." Thea's heart ached for the painfully thin woman who'd traveled all the way from France to the heart of the Texas Hill Country in search of the mother who'd given her up for adoption. As heartbreaking as the past few months had been, and as heavily as her fears weighed on her, Thea's life had been easier than Aimee's. The day Aimee had arrived in Ladreville, it had been obvious to Thea that she had not eaten in days, for she'd practically fainted when she'd climbed down from the stagecoach. Fortunately, Thea had been passing by and had taken her to the parsonage. She had known Pastor and Mrs. Russell would care for Aimee, but it was only later that Thea realized that she had helped Aimee with her quest by leading her to the house where she had been born. As the light breeze teased her bonnet strings, Thea smiled at her companion. If the breeze continued, the midday heat might feel less oppressive. Even if it did not, they were on their way, and that felt oh so good. For Thea, it was a new beginning, a chance to forge a life where no one would learn what had happened. For Aimee, this could be the end, the final step that would reunite her with her mother. "I'm glad you're coming with me," Thea told the young French woman. Though Aimee had been born in Ladreville, she had spent the rest of her life in a small French town and was, for all intents and purposes, French. It was virtually impossible to think of her as a Texan. As they reached the town's limits, Thea continued. While she wouldn't share all her reasons for being grateful for Aimee's companionship, she wanted her to understand that they were helping each other. Aimee had already bemoaned her inability to pay her share of expenses. "You came at exactly the right time. My sister was having a conniption at the thought that I might drive to Cimarron Creek alone. Sarah forgets that I'm 27 and not a child any longer." "Ancienne." Thea laughed, both at the word itself and the fact that Aimee had already forgotten her resolution to speak only English. "There are days when I do feel ancient," she admitted, "but today's not one of them." For far too much of the past year, her fears had made her feel older than Sarah, despite the fact that Sarah was 20 years her elder. The need to escape those fears and put the past behind her was one of the reasons the position in Cimarron Creek had sounded so attractive to Thea. "You seem happier this morning than I've ever seen you," Aimee said in lightly accented English. "I am." The thought of a new life filled Thea with an almost unbelievable sense of freedom. "The announcement that Cimarron Creek needed a midwife came at exactly the right time." "For me too." Aimee turned to glance back at the town where she'd been born. From this distance, it appeared peaceful, a place where nothing could go wrong. Thea knew otherwise, and so did Aimee. "God's timing is perfect," Aimee continued. "He was looking out for me when he brought me to Ladreville, and you." He'd been looking out for Thea, too. "I hope you find your answers in Cimarron Creek," she said, deliberately changing the subject. "But even if you don't, it will be wonderful having you with me. Travis Whitfield, he's the man who hired me, said the town would welcome me, but I'll still be a stranger for a while. I'm glad I'll have a friend with me." Aimee had become a friend more quickly than Thea had thought possible. The young Frenchwoman had arrived in Ladreville less than 2 weeks ago, but from the first hour she had spent with her, Thea had felt a connection between them. Though she couldn't identify the reason, she felt as if Aimee was the younger sister she'd always wanted. And when it had turned out that Aimee's mother had come from the same town that had hired Thea as its midwife, she had known that was no coincidence. They were meant to go together. If all went as planned, Aimee would find her mother, and Thea would begin a new life,